Of all the directions to take a Coming to America sequel, I was not expecting to blend it with the Princess Diaries. Yeah, you see it now, don't you?
I hadn't thought of that.
There you go.
Okay, then.
So, hi. This is the third or fourth review I've recorded this week. Uh,
You're
I
on a roll.
I am dedicated to getting these fucking things finally done. Because even just last week, I had this massive 13 video list. Of this list, what do people even care about at this point? So I was like, nope, 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 and narrowed it down to six. We're getting these fucking things done. So, so here we are, going with Coming to America. Coming
Coming to
to America.
numeral, not
Yeah.
not to this time.
Now you watched the first one before. I hadn't seen it, so I marathoned both of these pretty much back to back. You did the same.
I did, although one difference, I did kind of have to pause the sequel a few times because I had other stuff to do and had to tear myself away from the internet
Fair.
um, once or twice. So I kind of watched the second one in parts.
Uh, Fair enough. I think I did that with the first movie. So I think to capitalize what I've done this week I had to watch Monster Hunter. I watched Nomadland on Monday, Monster Hunter on Tuesday, Coming to America on Tuesday again, watching Coming to America the sequel on Tuesday again, so I can talk about this movie with you. The point is, I'm tired.
Yeah, and as I was just telling you, I kind of had a long day at work, so I'm there with you.
Woohoo! So I guess we should probably talk about what we thought of the first movie first, since I guess this is considered an '80s classic.
Yes.
And I never seen it before. I didn't really have much context for it. And I thought it was fine. It's a perfectly serviceable movie. Eddie Murphy's charming. He's likable. The storyline's decent enough for the time. I got a few laughs out of it. I didn't think it was hilarious, but I laughed at the "fuck you" joke. I thought that was funny. Uh,
Yes, that's one of the standout moments of the original.
yeah,
And
it's entertaining in that respect.
and it's also, especially in the barbershop scenes, it's also a showcase for um Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall's chameleon-like nature and ability to blend themselves into different characters.
For better or for worse, depending how annoying you find those characters.
Yeah, well, they're exaggerations, basically.
Yeah, that will definitely depend on your style of humor. It's not typically mine. So for me, it's kind of okay, all right, let's kind of wrap it up here. You gave these guys a little too much to chew on. Let's move on. Uh, I get that going the prosthetics is probably a long, arduous process, and you want to make the most of it, but still, uh, anyway, what role does the first one have for you? Does it one you watched a lot, or having a particular affinity for, or just kind of a movie that you liked that was there?
More of the last option you listed. I It was on Netflix a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I rewatched it then, and I was entertained by it again. I had seen it on TV back years ago when I lived with a parent who had cable.
Oh, what a
Yes. Um, it was never a movie that I owned or saw in the theater. I was a little young for it when it came out. I don't remember if it came out in the 80s or 90s.
I want to say '80s, but let me fact check that.
Uh, that's the I think including this week, I've maybe seen it about two or three times. Um,
It was 1988.
okay, yeah, I was too young for fuck you jokes.
Yeah, for sure.
uh, so I don't have as much nostalgia for it as adults or young adults who saw it when it came out do.
Mhm.
But I I enjoy it when I have seen it. It starts off a little slow, and it definitely has some camp moments. But where I connected with it originally when I first saw it on TV was his courtship of the female leads. I really liked their chemistry.
Yeah, and like I said, Eddie Murphy is very charming in it. It was definitely a role he had affinity for, and he wasn't doing like any over the top stereotypes, so that was appreciated.
Exactly.
So yeah, like the first movie has this charm. I can see why it can kind of gain cult following. Not one I would actively seek to watch, I think, but perfectly serviceable for the time. Um, the sequel kind of tends to follow a similar pattern that a lot of comedy sequels of the age tend to follow, like Dumb and Dumber 2, or that's the most prevalent example I can think of the top of my head. Basically, like sequels that come out way later than they should, that kind of just feed off the nostalgia of the original versus doing anything new with it and justifying its existence. I it's not terrible. Like I wasn't like angry or upset watching this movie. Like there's some parts like okay, there's some charm here. It's clearly kind of milking off the success of Black Panther a little bit. Uh,
I noticed that especially in the wardrobe choice after the makeover scene.
yeah. So granted, I don't know how much of that is just African garb, so I don't want to like say it's all Black Panther and get really offensive. But I felt like it's like they kind of part over the pitch of this movie is like, well, Black Panther's popular, so African culture is popular. Let's just put that in a movie. Uh, what's a property you haven't done anything with in the last 40 years? Oh, Coming to America. Let's make that. Uh, but anywho, um,
The beat, or excuse me, the plot follows many of the same beats that the original does.
except for the kind of really troubling plot device they decided to throw in the first act.
I think you're getting to my biggest problem
And it's a very
with
valid
it.
problem. Yeah, okay, just spoiler alert, because we gotta talk about this right away. Let's rip the band-aid off right now. Um, this whole movie is based on rape, basically.
Yes. On so they kind of retcon the club scene from the first movie to show him getting set up with um, a somewhat loose woman, and
And it's implied that she
and,
just and then basically raped.
and then raped him. So the whole, like you said, plot device is
Hinges on
it
this.
it, it is dependent on, oh, Eddie Murphy's character got date raped and had no idea he had a bastard child from it because he has no memory of getting date raped because he was drugged and date raped.
Yeah, it was just kind of you could have done that in so many different ways. Literally any other way would have been better than hey, let's make a date rape scene, but make it for laughs? Question mark. Like I
Yeah,
couldn't even tell they're trying to make it. I mean, they're trying to make it like funny, and it's like you're not smart enough to pull this off, movie.
no.
Like I'm not even that kind of person to say there's something you can't make jokes about, but you got to at least like be fucking interesting about it. Um,
And okay, they flip it that a woman is drugged and date raped a guy, but still,
that's kind of
it's
part of the
just
problem, though, isn't it?
it's
Um,
gross
it's
because
gross. Yeah.
it's still rape. It's ugh.
Well, because like that kind of falls into the toxic masculinity trope of if it happens to a man, it doesn't count, basically.
Oh, it still counts. It's still disgusting.
Oh yeah, no. My point is like that's kind of what makes it like as what makes it even grosser though is it purports that stereotype of whenever this is one thing that made That's My Boy such a like horrendously offensive movie to me was that whole concept of when it's a female teacher doing to a male student, it's less of she raped him versus I wish my teacher would do that that kind of bullshit. And it feels like it's kind of playing that same remark, like, a woman had like drugged you to have sex with you. Oh, poor you, that kind of thing. And it's not taken as seriously if the genders were reversed. Again, just take the same exact scene, same exact comedic moment, same exact beats, reverse the genders, it becomes a horror movie.
Yes, they just needed different music accompaniment.
Yeah, and so like that's a big problem going into the rest of the movie. It's
Because
definitely the worst part of it.
yes, it just unfortunately the rest of the plot is predicated off of that inciting incident.
Yeah, and it's pretty fucking gross. Um, yeah, I don't know what else to really say about it other than that. Like, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. I don't know who thought this was a good idea. And I think that also kind of leads into some of the other issues I have with this movie. Granted, they're not nearly as severe as this.
This
Is
is
definitely like
my one glaring big problem with this movie.
one thing I noticed in the movie is it wants to have its cake and eat it too. It wants to be with the modern times, but it also wants to indulge in the more, I don't want to say toxic elements, but outdated elements of the 80s, primarily in how it portrays women. Because on one hand, one of the main central points of the movie is that women are smart, they can take charge. Cool, all awesome, like awesome morals to have. But at the same time, there's a lot of sexualization of women in this movie.
Well, there was a lot of sexualization in the first one too.
I know that's my point though. Is like for a movie that's supposed to be like, if you're gonna make a movie, you can forgive it in the 80s because that was popular back then. You can kind of let that go. But you can't really do that in the same way now without addressing it to some extent. And this movie felt like it conveniently kind of skirted over that while still trying to be this feminist product. And like to me, that's a bit of hypocrisy. Now it would be one thing if they said like, they kind of play it. It's just the culture in this country that overly sexualizes women. But at the same time, the way it's framed and the way it's shot and the way it's exaggerated makes it clear that you, as the audience, are supposed to find them sexually attractive. So it kind of falls into like that double standard kind of thing. Does that make sense? Am I being too nitpicky?
No, I'm following what you're saying. I just can I give a little plot context?
Sure, go for it.
So in this one, we the audience see Eddie Murphy's character and his leading lady from the first
Lisa.
film. I think her name is Shari.
Lisa.
The actress's name is
Oh,
Sharice
the actor's name. Okay. I was
something.
gonna say like this is the case where I actually know the name.
But yes, so we see Hakeem and Lisa getting woken up in the Zamundan Palace, and they've had 3 daughters, and it's their anniversary, and James Earl Jones, Hakeem's Eddie Murphy's father character, is dying, and it's the traditional monarchy idea of the heir has to go to a prince.
Yep.
Even
and he finds out he had like the inciting incident for that before we get to the date rape scene, which is something I can't believe I'm gonna say in this context. Is there is this general from a warring nearby country, I think called like next door neighbors.
Nextoria, which
Nextoria.
Okay, that the on the nose nature of that name did make me laugh at the absurdity of it. It's like Nextoria, seriously.
This general from Nextoria comes around and basically says, if you don't have an heir that can marry one of my daughters, then I'm gonna kill you. So that's when he finds out from this shaman woman that he has an illegitimate son in
In
America, and
Queens.
that's when he finds out that he was date raped. Hooray! So he decides to fly off to America to go find his son and bring that son back. But before he can marry off to the daughter, who is like this super hot singer, and this movie has two random ass like pop music sequences for some reason. Uh, Three. I take it back. There are three. Um, one.
I
One
was
during the daughter introduction and one at the very end for some reason. Sorry, go ahead.
I was surprised that they got the rights to a Prince song. To
That was a Prince song. Fuck.
Yeah. In my opinion, one of the best songs about sex. But yes.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's Prince. Come on.
Exactly.
So he finds a son. I'm kind of over a lot here though because the plot's really not that complicated.
No, and after the basically after Act 1, it follows a lot of the same beats as the first movie. Only it's the next generation.
Yeah, which is usually the pitfall a lot of these like really really late sequels tend to fall into. So I was like, okay, you're not doing anything interesting with this.
And the screenwriter acknowledges this because at one point near the end, there's a scene where a line is uttered, "Oh, they're all reboots and sequels."
It's like you should never make a sequel unless, with some exceptions, something like that. And that was another issue I had. Like, okay, movie. This is a thing I kind of hate about meta humor when it's done poorly. Is like, movie, just because you can acknowledge you're doing the thing doesn't make it suddenly okay that you're doing the thing. You're still doing the thing.
Yes.
Like, you still made an unnecessary shitty sequel, but now you're just drawing attention to the fact that, oh, we know, guys. Wink. And I'm like, fuck off. It's still a fucking unnecessary sequel. Fuck you.
I guess Arsenio Hall needed work.
Is that who plays the son?
No,
Oh, no, yeah.
That's who plays Semi.
Right. Duh. I just know him as the guy who fought Luke Cage that one time. That's where I know him from.
Okay.
Season one. But anyway. Anywho, at least I think that's him. I could be wrong. Oh god, am I racist? No, I'm moving on. What was I talking about? Oh yeah. So yeah, once the son brings his mom with him to go back to Africa to take on these princely duties, and then he realizes he has to pass like a series of prince tests to prove that he's like a worthy prince before he can marry the daughter. It basically becomes the first movie mixed in with some Princess Diaries.
Pretty much. That's a very apt description.
And I realized this because I've never even seen the Princess Diaries, but I know enough about it to get like the gist. And the part where they say it's like, you need to learn how to walk like a prince. I should not do accents for this review. You need to learn walk like a prince. And I'm like, motherfucker, is this the Princess Wave scene? This looks like the Princess Wave scene. And sure enough, even has the same kind of moral. It's like, don't be like them. Be the prince don't be the prince of Africa. Be the prince of Queens or something like that, as the love interest implies. Like,
yeah,
I just feel like this was in Princess Diaries to some extent.
His hairstylist is his actual love interest. He forms a connection with her instead of the princess from Nextoria.
And the problem you have with basically having this character being the Akeem substitute for basically the same plot is the fact that this kid just isn't nearly as charming as Eddie Murphy is in the first one.
No.
And it's just very distracting. Like, you're watching this, God bless him, he's trying, this very kind of uncharismatic person. And you're trying to like him, you're supposed to root for him, you're supposed to root for him, like, do the right thing and go off with a woman he really loves and yada yada yada. But it's like, he just does not carry the movie nearly as much as Eddie Murphy did in the first one.
He's just kind of a blank slate.
In fact, where the movie does have its bright spots is when it actually focuses on Akeem and his character arc for this movie.
Yes.
Like the what they did with his character, I was actually for that. Like, they actually did a pretty good job of giving him an arc that makes sense. Which is now that he's king, he's trying to figure out how to not to let the whole country blow up and die. And it's in doing so becomes more like his father, and then he has to take a step back and realize that he has to find a better way. That's a good story arc.
Yes, I liked that too, and um, I understood that he wanted to honor his father's dying wish, and his father dies during his own funeral because he wanted to see his grand celebration on funeral. One very, very minor nitpick I have. Well, first, it was cool that they got En Vogue and Salt and Pepper to basically serenade James Earl Jones's character.
Yeah, but didn't that feel a little gratuitous to you?
Yes. But hey, the nostalgia, yay.
Fair enough.
Although they were popular in the 90s, but hey, late 80s or early 90s, close enough.
Get up a tad. 90s, 80s wasn't mad.
My one very minor momentary nitpick that kind of took me out of it a little bit during that gratuitous celebration was it sounded like En Vogue was auto-tuned. They are fabulous singers. They do not need to be auto-tuned.
But you got to make it more poppy. That's the whole thing, isn't it? You got to make it like, you got to go with what the kids like. This is what the kids are into these days. So you got to match it up there to engage a new audience and yada, yada, yada.
They were pop. They were 90s pop.
It's the same bullshit that Zoolander 2 did. You know, it's another kind of one of those tropes of sequels that have no right to be made this late in the game if you're not going to do anything new with it. It's more like we're just going to shamelessly pander to what we think kids like these days.
So that was a very minor nitpick for me personally, being somebody who is a fan of 90s music. But I digress slightly. So I understand and liked the character arc of Hakim wanting to honor his father's dying wish and continue the royal line. But the bastard prince that they bring back from Queens is like I said, just kind of bland, just kind of a blank slate.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot going for
it. No. And honestly, I liked the scenes with the princesses that Eddie Murphy's character, basically the daughters Hakim had with Lisa. They seemed capable and interesting and like strong young women. So
see, I'm kind of thinking, because I'm thinking like making a movie sequel 30 years too late has very rarely ever worked. And I was kind of thinking like one of the ones that I think has been most successful has been Bill and Ted 3.
And Blade Runner 2049.
And Blade Runner 2049. Yes, that's also an excellent example. Apples and oranges. But I think Bill and Ted is probably the more relevant example here. Because it is in that kind of offshoot 80s comedy that definitely had a very niche cult following back in the day. And by the way, the first two are still delightfully cheesy movies. I love them to death.
Cult classics.
But I'm kind of thinking, it's like, okay, why did Bill and Ted 3 work? And these, like, ones like Zoolander 2 and Dumb and Dumber 2 and Coming to America 2 don't work nearly as well. And I'm thinking the reason is because, unlike the other ones I mentioned, Bill and Ted 3 isn't just obsessed with doing the same beats as the original films. It's an expansion on it. They're built moving forward with it. but it's not obsessed with callbacks and repeating the same exact beats. It's about let's take what's been established before and use that to build a genuinely sincere, heartfelt reunion out of this, as opposed to something like this, which feels more just a cynical product. Uh,
And it has some charms, but for the most part, it feels a bit like a rehash.
exactly. Like there's not really attempt to do anything, not even necessarily new, but interesting with it. It doesn't feel like anyone actively wants to be here. It doesn't feel like
Well, except for Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall.
maybe like I'm being super generous. I'll give him that. But even Eddie Murray's doing his best. I'll give him credit. But it's also kind of like, oh, if we're gonna do a sequel, we have to have the Barber people come back. We have to have callbacks to this character and this character that you haven't seen in this long. We have to have callbacks to this, and that. And when you have this kind of just obsession with callbacks and nostalgia, you kind of lose track of the focus, which would be how you move it forward. Which is something I heavily respect about Bill and Ted. Like, because Bill and Ted 3 definitely had the similar story to this, where it's about passing on the next generation and where you direct your focus. But it did so better in that movie because it is very much about what we're doing. The past we came from isn't working. What we're like everything we did before isn't getting the job done. So we can't keep looking to the past to solve the present. We have to look to the people that come after us to do that very same thing. And it does so with such sincerity and joy and clear desire for everyone to actively make a good product out of this. Am I making sense?
You are. I just haven't seen any of the Bill and Ted movies.
Oh my God. If you want a great time, marathon all three. I heavily recommend. Um,
I'm of the opinion that what makes a sequel good is not one that rehashes the same beats of the original. It's one that continues the story
yeah. And
and
unfortunately, we make ones like,
expands upon it, where the characters grow and learn and meet new people, or sometimes they are new people and thing and life has happened to them, and it's a chance to see them again and spend time with them again and see what their lives and their worlds have become. That's that and the direction is why I think Blade Runner 2049 is a masterpiece
oh yeah,
that built upon and continued the the world and the elements of the original.
or even like I would say like Mad Max Fury Road or Creed are another couple good examples.
Exactly.
Because they build on what's been established without being obsessed with what came before. And that's how you
Exactly.
should make a good sequel to these. And you think it wouldn't be that hard because the obvious narrative through thread is right there. Like it is such the obvious decision to make. It's what like it was my biggest issue with The Incredibles 2, or the second Monster Inc. movie, because I'm like, the obvious solution what to do with the sequel is right there. Just have the kids grow up. That's all you have to do. It is so easy, and they never go for it. And it baffles me that they will do everything except the most obvious, most interesting direction to take a film. And like you can make something like this interesting, but instead you just kind of just dredge it up because I don't know, maybe you'll think that's more profitable, maybe you think it's more marketable. Maybe you just don't want to use the brand name to try and get some easy money out of people. Either way, it doesn't feel like it's from people who actually want to see where the story continues so much as make a quick buck, which is just a very disappointing form of sequel. Not even to say that this one is the worst form of that. God, no.
No, I it's not my intention to sound overly harsh towards this film. It's fine. It it's it's just a bit unnecessary, and I can't really let go of that that it's that the plot hinges on date rape.
Yeah, and that's yeah, that's a big fucking thing all on its own. Um, I
I
will
think
say at least it's not focused on heavily in the movie. Like they're trying to make a commentary on it, but it's still gross that it exists in the first place.
yes. The costumes are great. Some of the jokes and callbacks did land with me. The choreography's great. It's a little over the top and campy, but that can have its place. Is it as good as the first one? No, but it it I don't feel like my life was wasted watching it, unlike some of the other movies we've talked about on this channel in the past.
Yeah, yeah. This is no Rock Dog.
Or the star.
I forgot about the star.
Uh, I haven't been able to entirely.
Oh man, I've dragged you to so many shitty cartoons.
Yeah, you were on a roll there for a while.
Hey Sarah, are you busy? What do you want, Mike? There's a movie scout this weekend. You want to come watch something? Oh sure. And then I won't tell you till you get there. We're not here to see Logan, are we? No.
Yeah, I was
We're here to
bummed
see
about
Rock Dog.
that.
Because
So,
if I tell her we're gonna see Rock Dog, she might not show up. And I wouldn't blame her. To be fair.
yeah. I mean, I know it's a requirement for the review crew to not just see good movies because there does have to be a balance, and I understand and respect that.
Oh, I haven't enforced that rule in years.
Oh, you haven't? Okay.
No, I appreciate your dedication. Uh, now it's more just a volunteer basis, and thankfully,
Okay.
people just volunteers. I've suffered through the worst of it alone. It's basically what it boils down to. That's why Muha watched music with me. God bless him. Um, which,
Indeed.
by the way, already on the gonna more than likely be number one worst of this year. I'm calling it right now. Something has to really go above and beyond terrible to like crossover music at this point. Just
Wow. Saying
um,
something.
so far, I don't think we've gone through a review without mentioning it at some point since we saw it. Because Jesus, um, yeah, I don't really have a whole lot else for this. Do you got anything?
No, I gave it its props where I saw it, and I criticized it where I could not like it. So
Yeah, fair enough.
I have
So,
pretty much said my piece.
so I guess if you're like really desperate for a Coming to America sequel, you could do worse. You
It's
could certainly
serviceable.
do better if you can just get past the date rape.
Yeah.
You might get some enjoyment out of it, but yeah, I personally can't recommend it, but it's also not my style of humor. So
I honestly it just gives me more appreciation for the original.
honestly, me too. Yeah. So I think it's all we got. I'm taking a break tomorrow because I'm getting the first shot of my vaccine. Hooray!
Oh wow. I'm jealous. I haven't been able to get one yet. Although my mom's getting her second shot tomorrow.
Nice. Well, to be fair, I had to book it like an hour away. It was the closest place I could find it, and I just want to get it over with. So
Yeah, it's not having much luck down here.
yeah, sorry.
Uh,
And then on Friday, you can like probably check out Raya on Friday. So,
okay, sounds good.
we'll be back with that, and then I think we're probably gonna talk WandaVision over the weekend. So that'll be another chance, and that's all I got. So thank you guys for watching. See y'all later.